Hey there, Comics Alliance fans. This is Matt Wilson, co-host and producer of the War Rocket Ajax podcast, here once again to introduce a clip from next week's episode of War Rocket Ajax. This week, Chris Sims and I are going to be talking about 3 comics that came out this week. One we're going to be talking about far longer than the others. That is going to be Justice League number 31 by Geoff Johns and Doug Mahnke. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Superman number 32, also written by Geoff Johns, with art by John Romita Jr. We're going to be using that as a little bit of a comparison to Justice League 31. And then we're going to change things up a little bit and talk some about the newest issue of Copra by Michel Fiffe. Be sure to tune in to the full episode of War Rocket Ajax this Monday at warrocketajax.com. But in the meantime, check out this clip. All right, here we go. Justice League number 31.
Oh, we're back. We're back, guys.
We're back. This is a very disjointed comic book. That said, I don't hate everything about it.
I kind of do. I mean, no, like, I don't hate everything about it. But
do you really hate Shazam creating a ping pong table for the Justice League?
I don't hate Shazam creating a ping pong table for the Justice League. I hate that he has this new power that allows him to create a ping pong table, that I don't understand how this power works. Like, is Shazam, like, is he just, like, going to be Captain Marvel and Green Lantern now? Is he just going to, like, make stuff?
I guess. Although,
or is this, like, just a gag? I also hate that he has to put on his hood to do it.
That's true. That's pretty dumb.
You told me I could have unlimited magical powers to create whatever I wanted, but I had to pull on this fucking hood that made me look like a douchebag. I would just not use this power. No, I'm kidding. I would rule the world with Iron Fist.
Let's talk about some of the other parts of this comic, because frankly, the Shazam ping pong table part is the least consequential part of this comic. It is a 3-page interlude in the middle of this comic that's there for no good reason. So Billy Batson can complain about what a hassle it is to be a superhero. Because that's what kids are into. They're into complaining. And certainly that's what we want from our superheroes, right? To not want to be superheroes.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what we want from DC Comics. Like, DC Comics clearly doesn't want their superheroes to be superheroes. That's why they don't fight any supervillains. Let's talk about how this book goes off the fucking rails on page 1.
Let's go story by story. Because this comic has, like, several different stories in it. The first one is about the Earth 3 Green Lantern power ring, his power ring, now that he has died, finding a new host.
So my power ring's gonna go find the new power ring?
That's right.
Okay.
And what we get is a very troubling scene right up front.
It's like page fucking 1 with this shit. Like, because, okay, now, maybe we're being hand-wringing and oversensitive. Because, we've been through a lot over the past couple of years. But do we really need something that definitely plays like another rape origin?
Yeah.
That is also, like, leads to, like, a kind of super rapey evolution in the story. Like, the escalation of the story is Power Ring's new host, like, being forced against her, like, having her body used against her will to be a supervillain. And now again, to this credit, to the story's credit, the word rape is not used. This lady has been attacked. That is the word. The night you were attacked and left for dead. But, like, there's no way you can have this scene play out the way it does that you don't read into it. Like, there is if not stated, there is at least a heavy implication, if only by context.
Well, and then there is
by context of it being in these comics.
And then there is a symbolic rape. The ring taking over her body against her wishes.
Yeah, well, the ring saying this super creepy dialogue about how if she's not willing, Like, now it's going to be, like, it could have been less painful, but not now.
Well,
Like,
this is the actual
creepy,
this is the actual line from page 2. Oh, Jessica, this could have been so much less painful for you, my puppet. That's rough.
I get that it's a villain, and I get that it's intentionally creepy. But it's intentionally creepy in a way that's in a fucking comic where Captain Marvel makes a ping pong table.
I know people are going to listen to this.
Tone straight.
I know people are going to listen to this and say, we are overreacting, we are reading too much into this, and on and on. I did not mention anything about a rape implication in those first pages before Chris said it, but it was what I was thinking. Like, we did not discuss this beforehand. We both read this into it.
Talk about Justice League.
Yeah, we both read this into it independently. It's hard to miss for me.
Yeah, it is unavoidable. It is an unavoidable connotation of what's going on. Again, because I think it's supposed to be, but also because it's a DC comic in 2014. Like, they have lost getting the benefit of the doubt. They don't get to play it off just by not saying it anymore because they've done it so much.
The second story in this is, remember how when we were talking about Forever Evil, and we were talking about how so much of, especially the next to the last issue, was about people like arguing over who's the baddest and the coolest?
Yes.
Batman and Lex Luthor are still arguing over who's the baddest and the coolest. That is that entire scene. And Lex Luthor, in the end, gets to say he's the baddest and the coolest, because he finds the Batcave.
Here is a flaw in this comic that has been a flaw for the past 31 months of us talking about this comic. Lex Luthor wants to join the Justice League. So Lex Luthor goes after his goal and gets it, essentially. I mean, he doesn't, because Batman says he's not going to let him in the Justice League. But Lex Luthor proves his point. Which, by the way, shouldn't... Like, you don't need to be Lex Luthor if somebody goes on TV and goes, hey, Bruce Wayne's adopted son is Nightwing. hey, Dick Grayson, who's famous for being Bruce Wayne's adopted son, is Nightwing.
And then you see Batman freak out about trying to save Dick Grayson's life.
Yeah, like, shouldn't everybody in the world at that point be like, hey, is Bruce Wayne Batman?
Yes.
Because, I mean, Bruce Wayne also hangs out with those other two kids that look a lot like Red Robin and Robin. And didn't one of those kids just die? It is not... I mean, I get that it's superhero comics, and we have a certain suspension of disbelief for Clark Kent's glasses. You know, like, we get it. If they say, oh, no one can tell when his glasses are on, we get it. But shouldn't everybody in the world, like, does it really take Lex Luthor to be like, yeah, you're...
Your point is that Lex Luthor has not really accomplished that much in what he is.
What I'm saying is that was a digression, but, like, Lex Luthor proves his point, right? And you get a scene where Batman retells the Frog and Scorpion story, but he adds a bat in it. And I will say, that's dumb as hell, and I kind of love it. I
hated that more than anything in this comic. I hated the Frog and Scorpion story.
Okay, we're going to have to digress on this a bit. That is ridiculous that you hate that, but you love the crushing up the kryptonite and snorting it. Like drugs.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely love the idea of Batman, like, anytime he reads a story he doesn't like, is like, yeah, and then a bat showed up and fucked everything up.
I think what I hate about it is that
makes it brilliant.
It makes it sound like Batman's 12 years old, though. That's what a 12-year-old would say. Like, or that's what a 12-year-old would do.
It's our fault for being in our 30s reading this comic, let's be honest. Isn't that great, though? Like, that Batman... yeah, there was once a lion with a thorn in its paw, and a mouse pulled it out, and then a bat landed and punched the lion in the face for his crimes.
If I thought there was a hint of humor to it, I would say yes, but I don't think there is.
That is exactly what I said about the snorting the kryptonite.
Yeah, I guess we just have to see those two things in different ways.
Oh, it's so weird. Okay, but anyway, my point was, what the Justice League does in this comic is Batman doesn't let Lex Luthor join the Justice League, which I believe is the plot of this story, that Lex Luthor is going to join the Justice League. So we kind of already know that Batman has failed at that. The other thing the Justice League does is make a ping pong table. When Power Ring is out doing its super creepy My Puppet thing, who shows up to stop Power Ring on the last page, Matt?
The Doom Patrol.
Who is the... Yeah. In other words, not the fucking Justice League. All I want to see is the Justice League fight a supervillain. Oh, that's all I want at this point.
But what are we getting?
That is like baseline.
What are we getting instead? We're getting Lex Luthor joining the Justice League, and Captain Cold showing up at LexCorp with a hero's welcome, because he was part of the group that defeated, the Earth 3 in Justice League. Is Lex Luthor, how much have we seen of Luthor being a bad guy? Like an out-and-out actual bad guy.
Like in this book?
In any New 52 comic.
He was a bad guy in Superman Unchained for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was kind of bad in Action.
In Action...
But he was also working for the government.
Exactly. In Action, his role was...
He was kind of doing his job.
He was a government consultant who didn't understand Superman's deal and wanted to understand him and would go to crazy lengths to do it. That's bad guy stuff. It's not totally supervillain stuff yet. Right?
Right.
And yet, Lex Luthor is being discussed in this comic as somebody everybody knows is a supervillain. In the context of just the New 52, I don't know that we've seen that.
I think it was Spurgeon on Twitter when this story was announced, who was like, Lex Luthor joining the Justice League, but that goes against almost 3 years of continuity.
Yeah.
And that's the point. That's the problem, I think, is that this book wants to have that, that sense that Lex Luthor is a bad guy, but we haven't seen it. It wants to play off what we know about these characters without showing that to us. And if it was going to do that, why did we reboot the universe?
Exactly.
Because we had a Lex Luthor who was a bad guy. You know what Lex Luthor has done to Batman in this book that I'm holding in my hands, in the pages of Justice League? Lex Luthor saved Dick Grayson's life. Batman freaked out because he killed Dick in that comic, the last issue of Forever Evil. But then Lex Luthor goes, no, I had to briefly shut down his heart to get this bomb removed. That trick that you do a lot in your comics, Batman, where you slow your heart rate down, that thing that you have been doing since the 40s, he saved Dick Grayson's life. Batman should probably be yeah, let's give this rich industrialist who saved Dick Grayson's life a chance. Oh, and also he blew up Batman's clock.
That's right. Okay, look, we've talked a lot about Justice League.
Batman,
we've talked for almost more than 15 minutes now about Justice League. I want to briefly bring up how Superman 32 is a counterpoint to that. Chris has already written a review of Superman 32 for Comics Alliance. Go read that. One of the big points that Chris makes there is that it's a rehash of Superman Unchained, which it is. At the same time, here's how it's so different from Justice League. I feel like the Geoff Johns who writes Superman is a different writer from Geoff Johns who writes everything else. Because this is a story where a hero acts heroic, there is forward momentum, and there's a really interesting story hook. Setting aside the fact that it's a hook that has already been done to a point recently, it is an interesting story hook. And it's all focused. And this issue of Justice League is none of that. None of those things.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a different Geoff Johns. And it was like this when he was writing Superman the last time, too. And I think what you get, and something that I think has been obvious about Johns if you go back and follow his career, because I mean, look, there was a time when I was about to say Matt and I, but I don't think we've really talked about it. But there was a time when I was certainly excited about Geoff Johns, like those early days of Stars and Stripe and Flash and Hawkman and JSA. Like, there was a time when I could really see what he had to offer.
I will say I'm not so much in that boat, because my first real run-in with Geoff Johns was his Avengers run. And
well, it's fucking garbage.
Woo boy.
And you didn't like it when Hank Pym shrunk down and got up in there?
That's the part. That's the scene from that run everybody remembers. That run also had She-Hulk going on a rampage for no good reason.
Oh, because she was afraid.
Yeah.
Because She-Hulk, her powers are based on fear, which. I guess that works better when it's on Green Lantern. It sure as fuck didn't work on She-Hulk. It was insulting when that shit happened on She-Hulk. I think you can very, very clearly see when Geoff Johns has an understanding of a character. Because he gets Superman. He really gets Superman. There's a couple of dodgy bits. Like, I don't think Superman should be portrayed as someone who's lonely. But I can understand why you want him to be. I can understand why there's story potential there. But, like, Geoff Johns writing Superman is the guy who gave us Superman vision. The power to shoot beams out of your eyes that are red and blue and yellow and turn people into Superman. That shit's brilliant. That shit's fun and exciting and new. And Johns, as a writer, as a creator, connects with Superman on a cool level. Like, if all Geoff Johns did was write Superman comics, I think they'd be great. I think he'd be great. I don't think Geoff Johns understands Batman at all. And I think you can read Batman Earth 1 and find that out. And I think you can read Justice League and find that out. And I don't think he understands team dynamics. I think that's why Justice League is so bad, because he's trying to mix these characters that he has an understanding with, like Superman, with these characters that he just doesn't get.
But even the Superman that appears in his Justice League is a different guy than this Superman.
Yeah, he feels like a different guy, but I think that's because he's reacting, because he's playing off these other characters that he doesn't get. Like, I think he's creating these situations featuring characters that he doesn't really get, and I think he does get Superman. I think he understands Superman on a level that he doesn't understand these other characters. And when you get someone that he doesn't understand mixed in, it all goes to hell.
But even your nitpick of this issue of Superman, like that Superman shouldn't be portrayed as lonely, like, that's an argument you can have. But there's also a history of Superman being portrayed as lonely, as feeling isolated because he's the last member of this race, right? So that's something you can argue about, but it's also something that has been a part of the character before and demonstrates an understanding of the character in ways that like Justice League just doesn't. And I don't get it. All right. That's got to be the last word on that. Before we wrap up this comic segment, Chris, you wanted to talk a little bit about Copra number 15.
Y'all are all on the Copra train, right? Like, you have to be at this point. You have got to be reading Copra. The latest issue, number 15, arrived a couple weeks ago, and I just finally got the chance to sit down and read it. And it is... Copra is a Suicide Squad inspired story, and this issue is directly inspired by an issue of Suicide Squad. The deal with kind of the second arc, the 12 through 18, or 13 through 18 of Copra, is that it's focusing on individual characters. And in this one we have Gracie, who's sort of Michel Fiffe's Vixen analog, who is down in Miami fighting some drug dealers. And it is a direct analog and kind of an answer to the issue of Suicide Squad, where Vixen goes to fight drug dealers, which is, I want to say it's like Suicide Squad number 14. It might be like number 12 or 13, but it's very close in the run to where this particular issue would fall. It is fun and delightful and weird and character driven, and there are a couple of characters who show up that if you love DC Comics and have paid attention to DC Comics since 2005, you are going to laugh out loud when this dude shows up. I don't even want to ruin it. But yeah, obviously you are all on the Copra train, so you definitely should be reading this. And if you're not, what the F is wrong with you?
That's it for this week's early edition of War Rocket Ajax. If you want to listen to our full episode, which includes an interview with Douglas Walk, comics critic, commentator, and the writer of Judge Dredd, Mega City 2, City of Courts, also which includes Checks and Recs, a new installment of Every Story Ever, be sure to head over to warrocketajax.com on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody.